President Joe Biden heads to Michigan today as part of a two-day trip through critical swing states in the Midwest. Ahead of November, the president is looking to shore up the so-called blue wall. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, that Donald Trump won in 2016, Biden captured back in 2020. Today's visit comes amid concerns about dwindling support in Michigan, where 13% of Democratic primary voters cast ballots for uncommitted rather than for Biden. The president was in Wisconsin yesterday, where his reelection team opened a new campaign headquarters in Milwaukee. It's one of 44 new field offices across the state. The president also held a campaign event where he announced a $3.3 billion investment in transportation infrastructure and pointed out that the funding is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law.
My predecessor is an ally and his allies in Congress, including your Senator Ron Johnson, who he voted against the infrastructure law that funds this project. They want to undo everything I just talked about. My predecessor talked about Infrastructure Week for 4 years. He didn't get a single thing done, not one. Ron Johnson, every Republican in Congress, voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, which is helping fund these projects, and he wants to repeal it.
Joining us now, White House reporter for Politico, Adam Cancryn. Adam, good to see you this morning. So let's start with the blue wall and this campaign swing through Wisconsin and Michigan. The president showing off. His campaign has far more field offices and staff and a lot more money at its disposal than Donald Trump does right now. So walk us through each state. Wisconsin, which many believe is the closest battleground of all, and then Michigan, where, as we noted, the president's support has slipped. Talk to us about what the Biden campaign is trying to do in each.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of targeted bread and butter strategy we're going to see from the campaign probably all the way through the summer and into November. These are kind of targeted events in targeted states that Biden needs to win here. Wisconsin, Michigan, we're going to see him in Nevada and Arizona a little bit later. And the attempt here is to do a couple things. One, to talk about his accomplishments, to make specific points here. We saw in Wisconsin talking about infrastructure. Michigan, I'm sure we're going to hear about his pro-labor kind of policies, support for the unions. And then crucially, as you just saw there, to talk about what Donald Trump didn't do, and to really contrast the accomplishments he's had over the last 3 years with reminding people what it was like during the Trump term. That's a kind of big difference that the campaign believes. If they can remind people how things actually were from 2016 to 2020, that suddenly you'll start to see the polling shift more in Biden's favor.
Yeah, trying to combat what is being known as sort of Trump amnesia, Americans simply forgetting what those 4 years were truly like. And certainly, Adam, to your point, the president's best path to those 270 electoral college votes runs right through the blue wall states there in the Great Lakes. You've got some new reporting about Social Security and how it could impact this upcoming election. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, Social Security is clearly always, in pretty much every election that I can remember, a big issue. It's something that gets older Americans to vote, that they care about. It's a big turnout demographic. And what we've seen, especially over the past year, is Democrats really looking for any opportunity to position themselves as the ones who are going to protect the program, and then cast Republicans as trying to cut it. If you remember last year during the State of the Union 2023, there was that back and forth between Biden and Republicans where he got everybody to stand up and say, we're not going to cut Medicare, Social Security. He tried to engineer a lot of the same kind of dynamic this year at the State of the Union, and then was essentially given a gift by Donald Trump when Trump did an interview with CNBC and suggested that he may look at cutting entitlements. And one of the things that these kind of visits, routine visits to swing states allows Biden to do is react quickly to the news. So you saw Biden go up really quickly and say, look, here's what Trump said, and let me just promise again that I'm going to stop any cuts. I'm going to protect Social Security. It creates that, again, that contrast that the campaign is looking for on an issue that they think can be crucial, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, certainly. The good timing and Biden really ramping up the travel post-State of the Union, thinking they've addressed some of the age issues head on, hitting a bunch of battleground states, and as you say, next week, heading out west. One of the best reporters on the beat, White House reporter for Politico, Adam Cancryn. Thank you, Adam, for joining us this morning. And